So, welcome everyone. We are so happy you're here this morning with us. I'm Jan Jeremias, one of your hosts today. I think all of you know me here, but just in case you're listening to the recording, I'm an integrative health and wellness coach and author who works with people and pets to help them overcome health challenges and live healthier lives. And I'm really excited to be joined on this virtual stage with my co-host, collaborator, and dear friend, the amazing and very kind Mary Jane McQueen. So, Mary Jane, pass it to you.
Thanks, Jen, and a good day to everyone. I won't, we have so many time zones here. I'll just say good day. That hopefully that works. I sound like an Aussie now. But as always, I'm honored to be here with all of you, and of course, along with my beautiful friend Jan, who's always an inspiration to me. And yes, for the purpose of recording, for those that don't know me, I am Mary Jane, and I am the founder of MJ McQueen Creative Studio, where I help entrepreneurs step into their light and share their gifts authentically. And I help to guide and co-create with clients um, to overcome their self-doubt and finding their voice to create the visuals that align with their mission. And I just want to say a general welcome to everyone. Thank you for being here. Jan?
Yep. So, hello, everyone, and welcome. And we're so glad you're here with us today, once again, for Through the Looking Glass, the power of reflection in creating change. So, we welcome you into this space, a space intentionally created for thoughtful exploration, deep listening, and authentic presence. Whether you're a familiar face or new to these conversations, thank you for taking the time to join us here or to watch this recording. Our theme today is inspired by the image of the looking glass, a mirror, not just of our physical selves, but of our inner world. In many traditions, mirrors symbolize truth, clarity, and the courage to truly see. And in Lewis Carroll's Through the Looking Glass, the mirror becomes a portal, a passage into an altered reality where perception shifts and hidden aspects are revealed. We're inviting that kind of shift today. We're asking what happens when we observe ourselves in the world around us through the lens of curiosity rather than judgment. How often do we truly see without reacting, fixing, or rushing past? And what is simply observing? And what if simply observing with openness could be the very first step in creating real, meaningful change? This conversation is about more than self-awareness. It's about how our internal reflections shape our external reality. And as Gandhi reminded us, be the change you want to see in the world. But in order to be that change, we have to see ourselves clearly first, to look into the mirror and notice our patterns, our presence, and our power. So today we'll explore how observation, when rooted in presence and compassion, can become a catalyst, noticing what's here without needing to change it immediately, how we can open up the space for real transformation. We'll talk about what gets reflected back to us in our relationships, our reactions, and even in the state of the world, and how these reflections invite us to engage differently. We'll begin with this shared conversation and move together toward a place where we'll close with a grounding meditation to help integrate what arises. So as we begin, we invite you to bring your curiosity, one of your favorite words, Seamus. You don't need to have anything figured out. Just come as you are, knowing that your presence, your thoughts, your listening, and your insights really matter here. Let's step together through the looking glass and see what becomes possible.
And so this morning, I'd like to share a poem with you that's actually called Through the Looking Glass. I knew this was my journey, a clue this life had just for me. My frequency would rise and rise, getting me beyond the maze of lies. Even when faith was fading, I felt you patiently waiting. You said, I'm the one to heal your pain. Here, you've touched my elusive flame, From the beginning, our lives bound as one. The love we have can't be undone. Yes, I found you at last. Here you were in the looking glass. Some say I've lost my mind, yet I've traveled universes to find the one who fills me up inside. Every rule we broke and defied, they say it could not be done. Nonetheless, our cosmic love, pardon me, I felt like I was going to cough. Our cosmic love has won, sorry. Love abides as bliss overflows. Desire resides, oh, happiness grows. Yes, you've touched my elusive flame. Now my heart will never be the same. Transmuting the future and past, I see you through the looking glass. Together we will turn heads, dancing our melody and reds. We scream our joy and passion aloud. We're guaranteed to draw a crowd. A passion so colorful the world can see. Inspiring love is our destiny. Choosing hope relinquishes despair. A love for all to witness and share. Because you have touched my elusive flame, my world is no longer the same. Everlasting is the spell you cast as I walk through the looking glass. That's by Carmelita. What a beautiful, I was going to say, what a beautiful reflection. How funny is that? That's my nerd humor coming out. Yeah, it's just a beautiful thing. It's like realizing that the person we see in the mirror is the answer to, has the answer to everything. We just need to let things flow and be and just acknowledge that there is an inner wisdom there that sometimes we may forget is there. So I really loved the power of the poem. And I apologize for the coughing in between.
Absolutely. And how, what, like who we are is so much beyond the surface of what we see. And I think that that's why I always loved this idea of mirror work or looking beyond, like being able to see the deeper part of ourselves, um, to observe, and to be able to really look far beyond what, is the outer view of how we see ourselves in the world, the features, the face, all those things that we tend to place judgment on, sort of label ourselves with. Um, attended Seamus's last week, Saturday, being 100% human, and we were talking about labels. And so just beyond those things, which we are so surface, and to see the complexity and the deepness of someone and ourselves. Um, and I was speaking of Tonka, my dog, and I wrote a blog, I don't know, a number of years ago about our pets being a mirror of who we are. And I just think because how I am is I, influenced how he behaved so much. And he was truly a mirror for me. Like all of a sudden, if I was anxious, he was anxious. And it just all of a sudden, I think I saw myself so much more clearly because he mirrored back to me what I needed to work with. And so, I mean, you know how we always say it's, we a lot of times we do things because we are trying to, help someone else. And so I really think I started to work on some of the things that he responded to in my, like, that I was doing and how those impacted my life. All of a sudden I realized I couldn't move so fast. I tend to move very quickly, and that, like, he would cower and hide. And all of a sudden I was like, okay, I have to start navigating the world slowly. And so it was just such an interesting experience for me, to be around that. And as opposed to other people, because animals are pure, so they're reflecting back to me, but back to us, I think this kind of pureness of who we are. People always have their, someone not necessarily ill, intentioned sort of their own agenda. So what they're reflecting back is filtered through their, I don't know how much animals really filter things through, what you reflected back is what's there. And that's love too, it's just pure love. And so, but they do react to how we are in the world. Ah, Matthew, welcome, Matthew.
Yes, welcome back, Matthew.
And welcome, Rosemary.
Hi guys, how you doing?
Great,
Well,
Matthew. Thank you for joining us today.
Yeah, I just said I'd chip in before I get down to the traffic. I'm a driver there. There was another mirror poem that I heard, and it was about thinking about yourself and the actions that you take and how you treat people. And the kind of end of the poem is something about when you're looking back at you, make sure that you're proud of who you see looking back. I can't remember where I heard it. It might have been on one of the 100% human things, but it's a similar kind of a concept that the mirror is your reflection.
That's absolutely true. I know that with when Jen and I have done one of our workshops, we did some mirror work, talking about how we perceive ourselves, and it's interesting if anybody's ever done mirror work, which I'm sure probably a number of people here have, but it's just the intensity, the level of when you first look at the surface, looking at the surface, and then when you start to, it sounds funny, make eye contact with yourself in a mirror, how much deeper that goes, the depth that goes, and you start to see beneath that veneer, that surface that we see or others may see, and you start to see the inner thoughts and the emotions and stuff that start to come to the front. So it's just it's 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 a very intense practice, and it takes some practice getting into it for sure. But it's very important because you start to see, really see, um, what's lying beneath.
yeah, absolutely. And thanks, Mary Jane. That was really beautifully said and so true. And that was the power of that work when we did it all together. And I think the gift of it is that when you actually start to look at yourself at a deeper level, one of the gifts is that you start to look at other people in the same way. You look at them as an entire human being as opposed to just what we see on the outside. And especially these days where people are somewhat maybe focused on their outward appearance as far as like social media goes and selfies and all these other things that have now become very popular. I think we forget sometimes that, we see features, we see, how people look, whether it's photoshopped or not, all those different outward appearance things. And I think the gift of doing this deep work is that you start to look at people, and it's like you see their soul.
Absolutely. That was the one thing that we noticed because we did some mirror work, but we also had people find perhaps a childhood photo of themselves and really look at it, and just from the, not from a judgment point of view, but just from looking for, because and often, we're really self-judgmental of ourselves. But when we look at that younger us, we can really sense that essence of who we are is still there, and you can often see it in those photographs when you look deeper. So that was just it was a very powerful um, gain of perspective that we had from doing that practice. It was just because it reminded me of elements of myself that I hadn't forgotten, but I'd almost forgotten that those were part of me. When I looked at the photo, I could still see that sensitive, caring little girl in in my eyes of the photo that I used for that practice. So that was awesome.
And I had just this feeling of looking in the curiosity and that inquisitiveness. you
Hmm.
know, being the one who like, looking for answers kind of thing. It's like the world was this like mysterious and wondered place, and just kind of seeing that within myself then, and realizing that you still have those qualities within you now. And it's really a beautiful reminder, and also just like a really good reminder of like, oh, I haven't, because I think as life goes on, sometimes we feel like, we obviously we tend to feel worn, I think. Circumstances can wear us down, and life happens, and good and bad, and time goes on, and then all of a sudden it's this really fond memory of like, oh my gosh, I'm still the same. There's parts of me myself that have not changed, and they are what make me me, or you, and those have remained through everything. And
Yeah,
there's something very beautiful about that.
for sure it is, and it's amazing, right? So when you're doing a practice like that, and when you take time to sort of reflect on on who and where you are at this particular moment, when we realize that when we look into the stepping through the looking glass. I love that concept. I mean, Lewis Carroll spoke about it in the Alice in Wonderland series that he did. It's just an interesting perspective. It's like stepping in and confronting those things. It's kind of like speaking to that inner child, saying, I see you and
Mm.
I remember you. Because sometimes it's about the remembering as well. Um, as for anything, that self-criticism, the self-doubt, and sometimes the societal, expectations and stuff that comes through to us, and we absorb those and take those on as our own. It's just beautiful to take the time to think about that little child within, the one that wasn't, like I said before, for creativity and things, the one that wasn't afraid to try things, the one that was free to explore. At least hopefully you were. I know some scenarios may be different, but hopefully that was our experience as a child. And I know a few weeks ago, Seamus was talking about running running around in the outdoors as a kid. So it's just remembering who that carefree spirit was, um, back before we felt the need to conform.
Absolutely. And I think that we, mirror work, or like we'll do very short kind of form of that in the meditation today. But there are those opportunities, and those are the opportunities of what is mirror work. It's really of reflection. It's like we're looking at our own reflection beyond the surface. And I think there are other practices which tend to do that. Meditation, just intentionally slowing down, like pausing to actually see and reflect on how we feel and what's there and what's on the surface and what's deep, are those practices of in our daily life. Yes, intentional practices like mirror work or things like that are really useful, and you can incorporate them, but there are opportunities throughout your day if you take a moment and you just slow down, which is what I had to do with Tonka. Like I literally had to slow myself down physically, as opposed to, moving from thing to thing. He would like literally hide under tables, or if we were on one side of the room, he would be on the other side of the room. Like he would not come near you. And it was just like, okay, I have got to slow down. In a fast-paced world like we live in nowadays, sometimes it's really hard to slow down. We feel the need, or maybe I should speak for myself. Often I feel the need to fill space, like to fill my time with things. And then you realize, why? Like, can I just stay in one place, and can I just savor, or whatever I'm doing? Seamus?
Yeah, thanks. Thanks, Jan. Thanks, MJ, and everyone. Yeah, and I remember that poem too, Matt. I was trying to look for it there actually. I couldn't find it, but I remember the poem you were speaking to. And again, it's a similar theme around really showing up for yourself and living life um true authenticity and not being too guarded about what other people think, but really showing up from your own soul, literally. And I think that poem, The Mirror, I'll try and find it and maybe share it with the Jan later as well, because it does speak to the topic today as well around um, space and time and confidence in your own true unique identity from your soul rather than the superficial view we sometimes take, which you talked over the last couple of weeks in terms of the identity we assume and so forth. And yeah, as you were speaking, I was kind of thinking around that word observe. And it ties into a program I was doing as well, Step Away for a Day, where one of the first things I ask people to do is to take time to really think about what, and really the focus on really think about what you care most about was one of the core questions we asked people to reflect on. And that was kind of coming back to me as we were having today's conversation around the word observe and space and time and the mirror. And we look in the mirror and we observe the superficial, the skin, the eyes, and we're so busy, as you just mentioned, Jan, in this busy, active, pushing, forceful world. We're taking superficial glances at ourselves, and we're so ruled by the identity and how we should act as a dad, as a father, as a mother, as a son, as a daughter, as an aunt, as an uncle, as a boss. And we're so influenced, I guess, by those roles that we assume and switching to those roles right throughout the day in every circumstance, we take on a slightly different role. But the idea of simply taking time to observe and really observe, same as you kind of really focus on what you care about most, really stop, create space, and to really allow yourself to observe who you really are from your inside out through the mirror work. And maybe this is something we'll experience later on, is just creating that space and time to step away from the superficial, the roles and the pushing and the focus. Take that breath, stand in front of a mirror, deliberately and intentionally creating the space to be grateful for the person you see in front of you and deeply reflect on who that person is, not the roles, the identities, but that space, that minute, 2 minutes, 3 minutes of pure observance and focused observance of not just the superficial, but what lies deeply within that image you see in front of you. And I think that's what's coming to mind as we kind of talk about today's mirror work is the space and time um, to really, and that focus on that word, really observe deeply your true identity, the foundational identity that we allow ourselves to be anchored from when we're assuming all these more superficial identities, I think, which we touched on in previous weeks as well. But again, it's a reminder back to what MJ spoke about, back to our core, unique, authentic soul energy that is the anchor for how we show up in the outside world as well, in the outside world, and making sure that as we assume those identities, we never lose the link to that soul core anchor, and I think it's kind of back to values as well, I suppose, as we kind of navigate our way in this busy outside world from that beautiful person we all are within. So yeah, thanks everyone.
Wow, Seamus, thank you. Thank you so much. So beautifully described. It's said is that, that slowing down and that observing, um, to observe. And I think also, as you were talking about, you know, that let's say moment where we self-reflect, but also is to recognize, we aren't, people reflect back to us, often things about ourselves. Some of them are, like I said, that's, they're seeing it through their filter. Um, but it still reveals a lot about ourselves in that reflection. And then we are the ones who have to choose. Like we are the ones who sits there to me and have to sit back and say, is this true for me? Is what they're really revealing back to me really who I am? Or is it coming from them and their filter and what they see, and they're reflecting that to me, and they are not really reflecting, like what they're reflecting back is false. And so that's right, and Mary Jane, perception shapes reality, and how we believe others see us can distort our self-image unless we intervene with intentional awareness. Absolutely. And so it's the awareness and us like kind of really slowing down to be able to observe what they are reflecting back. So not only is it what we see, but it's possibly what is reflected back by others, good and bad. And sometimes that reflection is far better than we perceive ourselves. How often have people said to you, like something about you, like you're really good at that, where it's like, and you think to yourself, really? Like it's, and it's almost like, you know, they reveal your strengths to you when you've forgotten at times. Mary Jane, did you want to say something, or should we move to Al?
Oh, I just want to say thank you for saying that. It's like, because I feel like I do that often, and I always seem, well, I guess it's a pleasant surprise. I'm always pleasantly surprised when somebody acknowledges something and I'm thinking, oh, thank you, because I don't always perceive that in myself. So I just, it was making me laugh when when you were saying that. I'm like, oh, that sounds like me. But that's it. But yes, Al, please feel free to share.
Yeah, I like to share the story of the Lion King because they're so powerful. The reflection of him, where the baboon, Rafiki, takes him to the pond. Of Simba was very down and out. So he just lost his way. Then he's looking into the pond and he sees his father. The father, the dead. Which is Mufasa. And basically, the spirit actually lives within him. And it inspires him. To see his own true identity and the purpose, that he is the actual rightful king, that he should reclaim, and that's his destiny to become, to take over his legacy, becoming a great leader. Because the water reflection is very powerful. It's similar to the glass that you look onto it, basically like our daily lives, are we the reflection of our parents, our mother, our father, or even grandparents or anybody that so symbolizes close to us, and how our true identities actually reflect in us, the values and also our daily lives, that we are projecting, that we have to move on and getting to become better and better each day, so that the spirit of whoever is in our minds, even though they are passed on, we also be in our hearts, and it's a very good self-reflection in the story. So thank you.
Thank you, Al. And I love that reminder of the Lion King. And I think it's so interesting because, historically, if you look back, like how long have people been using mirrors or reflection, whether it be reflection in water or, whatever it was, but it has been used or as a symbol and as a motivator and in so many different practices and beliefs, throughout time. So it's kind of amazing the sort of the deepness that whole idea of reflection holds because we are reflected back in nature. And so, before anything such as a mirror, so Austin.
Yes, thank you, Jan. I just would like to compound on so much of this fruitful conversation. There's a mirror almost within each of us, one that's just as vast and expansive as the cosmos itself. And when we look into it, we're not just seeing as many before me have alluded to, not just like a physical reflection, but like a deeper truth into the reflection of our soul. And so this power behind or within introspection, um, it comes from, not what we are initially seeing, but how we choose to see and perceive and interpret it. Every time we take a moment to pause, that observation moment and look inward, look beyond the reflection itself, we're reconnecting to the essence of who we truly are, shedding, we could be transmuting layers of doubt or fear and the illusion itself, that tend to cloud that reflection or that view. And this is mirror work is a little bit new to me, but I have heard it before, and what I relate it to is it's very much like a alchemical process, like a practice of transforming the self-criticism into like self-love, or turning old wounds into healing, turning limitations into possibilities. And when we approach ourselves with compassion and start to recognize the spark of divinity that resides in all of us, this spark is not just something out there in the universe. It's living, breathing, force within each of us, connecting us to everything around us, including the stars. And so, how we choose to see ourselves, excuse me, it determines so much of how we're going to experience the world around us. And if we look at ourselves with the judgment, we create that separation then. But if we look at ourselves with love, with, an open minds to unity, um, it, so again, our reflection is not just a mirror of, our face. It reflects who we are ready to see and what we're ready to see about ourselves. The more we embrace this power of introspection, awareness, the pause, observation, and what I'm going to look more into as mirror work, which reminds me also a lot of Ho'oponopono. The more we can learn, to like master how we can balance perception and perspective and the world ultimately, how we are creating this reality. So, thank you for letting me compound on that. I'm done.
Thank you, Austin. I mean, a few things like as you were talking and the words I wrote down and I put in here was compassion and self-love. And I think that is so true. I think when we start to look at ourselves a little deeper, I think we spoke about the positive aspects of like recognizing like the kid, those childhood qualities we have that remain. But I think we also start to look at ourselves that way. Because I think we see our vulnerability and we see, not in a bad way, but we see, everything. And all of a sudden, like things that we did become a little bit less harsh and we have a lot more compassion for and a lot more understanding. And I think we look so much deeper and we can see ourselves as that little child, no matter, or that person that is a human being and not, isn't perfect, and all those imperfections become okay because we look at it with this element or through a filter of love and compassion versus looking at it through that very critical eye, that we tend to perceive when we're too busy doing, because we have a lot less compassion and we're just like, it should just like, things should be perfect and the world should be perfect. And we realize and we slow down and we realize that it's okay that it's not.
Yes, Jan, that was a beautiful reflection because I put it into the chat because it's like filter of love, looking at ourselves through a filter of love. Wh- What an amazing concept that is, and a necessary one too, because we're often so willing to look at other people around us, our loved ones, especially through a filter of love, and give them the grace um, of being who they are in that moment. But how often do we remove that filter when we look at ourselves and bring in that inner critic, the one that tells us that we aren't enough and we're not doing enough or not, but and also that essence of being, just being. we're being enough, no matter where we are at this stage. It's fine. It's all good. So, Darlene, what wisdom do you have to share?
Wait 1 minute. I'm just
Yeah, yeah.
Darlene. Thanks. And Mary Jane, and the other thing I just wanted to add to what you shared so beautifully is this aspect of, I think when we can look for that love and see that love and we can have it for ourselves, like that self-love, we don't look for it outside of ourselves, which so many of us do, especially like we navigate the world and we judge ourselves by, like who loves me and how we fit in and those outward things, where when you pause and you start to do this deep work and you observe and you can look at yourself with that love and feel that love for yourself, there's no need to look for it externally any longer because you have it within you and you feel it within you. So sorry. Go ahead, Darlene.
No problem. You add so many things going through my head. First and foremost, I think that the thing that comes to mind with this whole conversation is just how difficult it can be when you're starting off. I had the privilege of working with a client 2 weeks ago, and funny enough, that this is exactly what we started to do. She'd never done any kind of mirror work before, and she pulled the mirror to her face and she stopped dead in her tracks. And she said, that's the first time I've ever actually seen myself and been seen in a really different way. And she started to cry and all these emotions came out. So I think there's such beauty in this, but there's also that recognition that it can be very difficult when you're starting out. And because like she said, right, the first time she had been seen ever. And we had a wonderful, wonderful conversation, wonderful discussion around it. And it just, so much gratitude to her for being brave to want to start that process and start working on mirror work and start with that reflection, because it can be so much. So that kindness and the gentleness and the essence of self-compassion, that this can be a lot, not impossible. And then that also reflects the other part of the conversation that reflected back to nature. So at the beginning of all of the morning today, I had said that I had pulled some cards and I got caught up in the cards. And funny enough, Jan, what you just said is pretty much the essence of what my card says. So if I can just read a sentence or two, because it just really is so poignantly aligns with our conversation here. So the card that I pulled said, be the mountain. And the be the mountain card is a reminder to go slow and steady so that you can soar higher than ever before, to ensure that you have strong, steady foundations so you can reach to the heavens. It's a reminder that no matter how harsh the wind blows, nothing can knock you off center because you draw strength from within. The shape of a mountain resembles a triangle. The equilateral triangle is the strongest shape there is. No matter how much pressure you put on each of the sides, it cannot be broken, for it draws its strength from within. So that drawing that strength from within, it's here for us. And with that, what struck me was the slow, right? It's the affirmation for this card is, I'm not in a rush. It's safe for me to go slow and steady to find myself. And I read it, I got goosebumps, and I just had to share it because it just so poignantly, I think, brings in all of the conversation today and the wisdom that it's not just in the mirror, right? Where yes, the mirror is a part of it, but there's so much, just that reflection and that compassion. And thank you all for your shares. So moved by everything this morning. So thank you.
Thank you, Darlene, and thank you for sharing the card. And of course, I said it. I mean, just like seems to be, I don't know, when Mary Jane and I meet and we draw cards, it's always so applicable. So thank you. And thank you for drawing the cards in the first place. And one of the things you said, in yoga, we refer to this phrase, root to rise, that you have to be rooted and grounded to rise up, to move, and to navigate. And we look at it in the practice, it's, kind of in this physical sense that you can definitely, very somatic experience, where if you think of a, you know, the anchor of a kite, the fact that it is the person holding it, which allows the kite to fly. Because if the person isn't grounded and rooted, or that kite string is not held, then the kite flies away. And so to soar, you have to have that strong foundation and those roots. And usually what happens is that when we don't feel like that, when we feel untethered, is when we feel overwhelmed. We feel, you know, like there is no anchor. And the question is, I mean, in my yoga practice, in the style I practice, we always say the heart is the anchor. And so that goes to like values and feelings and thoughts and all that you are, your soul essence. So that's your anchor.
Beautiful reflections, and thank you everyone for sharing these beautiful thoughts. And Darlene, yes, thank you. Of course, as Jen and I always say, yes, when we pull a card, it's like, yes, of course, that's that's the message today, because it's all energy, and I feel like it's all connected in some way, and I love that. So, but that's so lovely. Thank you for sharing that.
Anyone else have anything that they feel, um, you know, inspired to share? Um, the, oh, good. Zara. Welcome, Zara.
Thank you. And hi, everybody. And yes, Jan, I dropped a quick message about the whole missed DM thing, but yeah, these things happen. As far as mirrors go, that's a really interesting conversation that we're having right now. I was kind of wondering whether I should mention shadow work, because that's something I found that helped me more than mirror work. And I tell you why. I tend to have a blind spot, and quite a few blind spots, and I tend to see the best in everyone. And it's almost like I've had to meet quite a few, I don't want to say dark people, but that's why I call it shadow work, before I've realized maybe I was overgiving here and there. Maybe there was a slight boundary issue with maybe not taking care of myself, like giving to the point almost I had nothing left to give. And I think I often got myself into that situation. And I don't think mirror work really helped me, because I was constantly going. I was always seeing the best in people and seeing the positive sides. I was attracting a lot of people who were constantly taking from me but not giving back. And that included a lot of my own personal family, actually. So it wasn't until I met a few people who are completely very open about the fact that, they were here to take and drain me, that I realized where I had to sort of um, kind of tighten my belt, if you like, and just make some adjustments. So yeah, I just wanted to mention that. I wondered what everyone else's thoughts are on the matter. I know it's kind of the opposite of mirror, but I do believe that there is that yin and yang, and we do need a balance. Yeah. Thank you for allowing me to share that.
Yeah, no, of course. Thank you, Zara. I'm so glad that Austin and Michael have something to share. And I just wanted to say, I think it depends maybe like on who you are. I think they are both valuable, but you kind of have to look. And like you said, for you, mirror work did not hold much. Like it didn't, you needed that shadow work. And I think for someone who tends to be very self-critical and very like down on themselves and has a hard time finding the positive things about themselves, mirror work, I think, is very useful, because I think it does reveal to you a deeper sense of who you are, and, on the deepest level. And it does connect you with that love. And there are other practices like mirror work and saying, affirmations to yourself when you're looking in the mirror, which have, you know, been found to be really helpful for people. And the studies actually substantiate that. So I think you have to look, you have to sort of explore for yourself and see what fits. And it might be at different times in your life, different things work. I mean, we do evolve. And so it might be at one point you need that mirror work because you're going through and it's very hard for you to find those things about yourself that are positive. And it might be at other times that shadow work is really, the thing you need because you really need, like you said, the yin and the yang. You need to see the other side of the coin. And so I think that it's neither one nor the other. I think we kind of have to explore it and then see where we are in life and what's going on in life, and then kind of use what fits at the moment. Austin?
Yes, thank you, Jan. So I had like an aha moment about this mirror work, and what it comes down to is so for at least the last 30 days, I've been doing what I'll call awareness documentation, and it's where I talk to my I talk to myself in a camera, and then I play it back, and the aha came from me realizing it's very much like a mirror, in terms of, the value that I'm getting out of not being able to, I guess, change or sort of like influence what I'm seeing. Um, and I- I've just it's kind of hard to put in words until you like really do it for yourself. But I've gotten so many profound um expansion and elevation just at doing this little practice where, I talk to myself, I go through like a structure, I talk about an experience, what it's causing, what the hope is, and then an action step to take. And then I watch it back, and often then I'll also write about it, what did I learn? And I remember when I first began that, I was very concerned about like my body language and how am I speaking. But then when I was able to, I guess, shift this whole inner introspection perspective of how I'm actually perceiving myself. Like one thing that came out of it was my confidence skyrocketed because I was able to look at myself subjectively instead of objectively. So I just felt like sharing my little aha moment.
I absolutely love that. I mean, I've not done that, Austin, but I think I would want to get on a Zoom with you and talk about it some more, actually, because it sounds like something I would really love to explore. I mean, I have done it in recording my voice, where I actually get on, and I talk, and that's also a very interesting experience because a lot of us are not used to hearing our own voices played back to us, like, and it's very different. And sometimes it's like almost like on twofold. Like some things you're like, oh my gosh, like did I really say that? And then other things you're like, oh my gosh, I sound a lot wiser than I really give myself credit for. And in other ways, it's just even the sound of your own voice and what it sounds like played back. And so it's, I've done that. So I love that idea and that, and your aha or revelation. Beautiful. Michael, did you want to share something? And welcome. I
How
see you're
about,
not.
can you hear me?
Now I can hear you.
Okay, thank you. I have a little some technical issues with my Zoom audio. Yeah, happy to be here. And yeah, I did want to share something really briefly. The term of mirror work is like a new phrase. I've never heard that before until, just recently. But I realized, and hearing y'all talk about it, it's like, well, wait a minute, this sounds very familiar. It sounds like I've been using this really for a number of years when I've tried to prep myself before speaking to an audience or presenting to a group, like my board, getting in front of the mirror and just practicing parts of my speech or things that I was going to say, or even maybe the hard conversations that I was going to have with people. Um, and doing that practice helped get me through, help get me make me feel a little bit more comfortable. Um, and then I've also tried it with audio recording myself, hearing my voice and trying to get comfortable with that because it does feel a little bizarre to hear yourself, when you're not expecting. It's like, is that me? And also doing it on Zoom. just literally hitting the record button and practicing how I'm going to sound, how I'm going to communicate or convey something before I actually do it live. And that's helped me kind of practice and work out the kinks in some of the things I was going to say. The other thing I'm finding is that in the practice of doing that, it's reacquainting myself with myself. And it's like we don't really see ourselves, um, from the outside until maybe someone shows us a picture or we see ourselves on social media and someone took a picture of us. But if I think the practice of doing that more and more often, if we do it ourselves, it's like reacquainting ourselves with an old friend, ourselves. And if we feel more comfortable there, we can, be more comfortable with people and just not feel guarded, more comfortable with expressing ourselves and just sometimes just putting things out into the universe and seeing how they land because we just never know um, what impact it's going to have on others.
That's really valuable insight, Michael, for sure. And thank you for sharing that. And it's I guess I love how you do that, and that's such a very powerful tool to support you in what you do. And then now the invitation is to take it a step further and focus in on yourself without any other expectations, just focusing on yourself. Look at yourself in the eye, in the mirror, on the camera, whatever it is, and really just say, like I was saying earlier in the chat, it's like saying to yourself, I see you. Just saying those words, I see you, and repeating those to yourself out loud. And then if it feels comfortable, say, I love you. Those are really powerful tools because you really start to see below that surface as you're speaking to Michael as well as like reconnecting to yourself, reconnecting to that person that lies within. Because only from my perspective, just looking that way is living an authentic life is the only way to be and truly seeing yourself. That's the foundation. So, but thank you for sharing that, Michael. It's wonderful. Matthew, I think you were up first if you'd like to share.
I'm waiting for permission. Two women running this thing. I don't want to jump in, that's for sure.
You have permission, sir.
I think Michael answered a little bit of my question, and it was kind of, I suppose, to Michael and Jan, when you did that recording, I think Michael did it anyway. Is there things that you changed that you felt worked better for you? And when, if you did make a change, when you hear yourself saying it, does your body feel the difference when you don't make the correction that you thought might improve? I hope that's clear.
Um, well, interestingly enough, I know that for me, you know, when I was speaking to myself, like if I was saying affirmations, I think part of it over time, yes, it did. Originally, I think it took a little while because we're really smart. And if we don't believe what we're saying necessarily, I think that our brain basically knows, okay, this is a load of bull that you're telling me right now. And so I think that it isn't something that might happen overnight. I think over time, and I did this over a period of time where I would like, for days and days, sort of like Austin did with his filming, his recording of himself of I did it over like a month where I would record myself and then play back. And over time, yes, it did shift, but it wasn't for me, it wasn't an immediate feeling, at least as far as trying to change like things like thoughts or beliefs, things that were deeper. I think that did it help in other areas? Probably yes. Like I got far more used to the way my voice sounded, and I got much more comfortable with speaking, in rooms like this. So I think in that way it helped. I think with some of the things, the deeper work I was trying to do, it, like everything, it took time. I hope that answered your question.
Yeah.
And Seamus?
Yeah, thanks, Jan. It was just back to the word observe. And again, the space to observe in different dimensions. Like we can superficially observe, like look in the mirror and look away and go on to what we're normally doing. And then with that space, we can observe how we're showing up in each of those assumed identities we talked about earlier. But also then if you engage and really go down layer by layer, I think there's another layer of maybe introspection and observing the inner voice. And the inner voice isn't us. And I think, this is something Jack Cornfield invited me to do, like recently as I was reading his book. It's the power that comes at observing. I'm not the inner voice, I am the observer from beneath that inner voice. And I think if you can see it from that perspective, there's a lot of power in being able to step back and challenge the inner voice that is so powerful and that we allow to influence us so heavily. So that's just something that's coming up as we're having the conversation today as well. That comes with the mirror, superficial, let's say, mirror work initially, and then with the perseverance to actually look and observe deeper and deeper and deeper. You can observe how you're showing up on the outside, but I think there's also an opportunity to kind of create a platform or an anchor within that allows you to observe the inner voice and critique the inner voice that somehow before it was so powerful that it wasn't even possible to doubt or check or even to um, challenge that inner voice. And I think when you're coming from that space closer to observing and loving, and this is me and this is who I am, you're in a much better position to be able to challenge the inner voice, which is often a very large critic of ourselves and blocks ourselves expressing and showing up for around who we truly are. And I think that is a lovely tool that I've begun to kind of play with and to experience as a means to allowing that blend of showing up with the assumed identities on the outside with a pretty clear channel back to that core soul identity, I think, that we talked about today as well. So yeah, thanks everyone.
Thank you, Seamus. Yeah, and I have another poem to share, but before I do that, Mary Jane, did you have anything you wanted to share?
Um, I want to thank everyone for the powerful insights and heart shares that you've been sharing with us this morning. It's just, or this afternoon or this evening, I haven't forgotten now. That just thank you. Thank you for sharing that and giving me so many points to reflect on. And Jen, I hand it over to you to finish this out as you see fit.
Okay, thanks everybody for your beautiful, beautiful, heartfelt sharing. But I was reminded of this poem which I pulled up called Love After Love by Derek Walcott. The time will come when, with elation, you will greet yourself arriving at your own door, in your own mirror, and each will smile at the other's welcome and say, sit here, eat. You will love again the stranger who was yourself. Give wine, give bread, give back your heart to itself, to the stranger who has loved you all your life, whom you ignored for another, who knows you by heart. Take down the love letters from the bookshelf, the photographs, the desperate notes. Peel your own image from the mirror. Sit and feast on your life.
It's beautiful, Jan. Thank you for sharing.
Yeah, one of my favorites. And we will pop that in the chat. But for now, we're going to move into our meditation for today. And what I would love for you to do is if you have a mirror close by, you can use it. But if not, you can take out your phone and open up the front facing or selfie tool of your camera on your phone. I'll give everybody a moment to do that. And when you do that, feel free to give me a thumbs up. Great. And take a moment to set it up so you can see yourself clearly. Let your gaze soften. There's no need to adjust your appearance. Just come as you are. Take a deep breath in and slowly exhale. Let your shoulders drop. Let your jaw relax. Now bring your attention to your eyes and just look. No judgment, no story, just observe. What do you see? As you look, silently repeat to yourself, I am more than what I see. I am more than how I appear. I am whole, even in my becoming. Notice any thoughts or emotions that arise. Maybe there's discomfort, maybe curiosity. Let it all be there. Gently acknowledge it and come back to your gaze, to your eyes. Now shift your attention from the outer layer, your face, your features. Notice them for a moment. Observe the features, the face, the skin. And now I invite you to feel into the person behind the image. The you who has faced storms and kept going. The you who has loved, who has lost, and who is still learning. The you who shows up even now. Take a breath. Feel the beat of your heart. Feel your presence. See your presence. And now whisper silently or aloud, I see you. I accept you. I love you. Let it land. Let it ripple through the parts of you that may still be unsure or hiding. Pause for a moment in the stillness. And when you're ready, feel free to slowly lower your gaze or close your eyes. Place down your phone and put your hands on your heart. Feel the warmth of your own being. Take a deep breath in, and as you exhale, say slowly, I am enough. Let this practice be something you return to whenever you forget the truth of who you are. The mirror may show you form, but your essence that lives beyond the surface can be seen too from the inside. Thank you all so much for joining us today. Mary Jane and I appreciate each and every one of you and what you brought to this conversation. If you're not connected with us, please feel free to connect with us. Just as an, just so you know, we have our next workshop on Sunday, April 27th at 2 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time, Rooted and Radiant, Grounding and Rejuvenating Practices for Spring. We have this and 5 other workshops coming up in 2025. So we're really excited about that. We hopefully will be back again next week on next Friday. Just in case you want to re-listen to this recording, or we will have it up on our YouTube channel, Spirit Born Imaginings YouTube channel. We would appreciate it if you would we would love it if you would maybe take a moment to like and subscribe. That would be great. And have a wonderful, wonderful week, everybody. And lastly, if you celebrate the holiday of Passover, a happy Passover to you all.
Yes, have a blessed weekend, everyone, and thank you for joining us again. And we hope to, God willing, see you next week, or hear you next week, as I should say.
Yes, absolutely.
All the best, everyone.
Good luck.
Yes.
Take care.